Try to rat me out to our corporate? Enjoy being ratted on. This is kind of long story is still currently going on in my company, and I have only been at this place for a year. I will do as best as I can in giving a good recap. Names have been changed. So I used to work at this fancy retirement facility and was constantly having my boss tell me one thing and changing it the next day. After being told I was up for promotion, after having worked there for 3 years and being the best at my job as well as the longest employee, they hired someone over me because they were the boss's family. I immediately began looking for a new job and found one at my local office as a receptionist. My mom worked there as the billing manager, and after 2 interviews with the new boss and assuring him that even if my mom left or quit, I would still work there, I got the job. It was stated that it would be part-time as a kind of probationary period, and then I would be full-time and allowed to do some sales. I become full-time and life is great, working my ass off and doing things that were not in my job description. I was pulled into a meeting with my boss, let's call him Ted, and my mom, just going to use mom. He informed me that our parent company wanted to know why I was full-time, so to justify my being full-time, he told me that everything I put into our system, I was to put my name on. I said, great. We worked out a system for how we would get the things I didn't actually get commission on off of the report, and it went fine for 3 months. I was pulled into Ted's office again and given a verbal warning. Originally was a write-up, but after I explained, he dropped it down and told that I was never told to put my name on everything, etc. Mom backed me up, and it went away. Many things happen after this, which lead all of us into being very distrusting of our coworkers, and eventually we come together and realize it is because Ted is going around claiming that we are talking shit about each other and lying. Ted also tells me to have everything in writing so that I always have a record, important to the petty part of my story. We are irritated, but now we know when we do our jobs. In June of 2019, I find out I'm pregnant. I didn't tell mom until I was sure, but Ted offered me a position at a different office as their sales rep for the entire office, so I told him. I declined the job as it was not risk-free, and I needed to make sure I could support my little bundle, and that market is horrible. After this, Ted begins telling my direct supervisor, to be called Tessa, that I am not doing my job, and I have been slacking off, to which she basically tells him to piss off because I am. Tessa tells me he is trying to find a way to fire me, and if he does, it will definitely be because I am pregnant. I have my baby, and about 5 weeks into my 3-month maternity leave, he calls me and asks to speak to me outside of the office. We meet, and Ted offers me a job at a different office, my hometown office, as their full-time sales rep. If I don't take this job, my position will be dropped down to part-time, and I can't afford that, so I take it. He tells me I have to be at work the next Monday, and I now have 3 days to find a babysitter for my kid during all the COVID crap. Obviously, that doesn't work, but my boyfriend gets put on half days, so I work half the day at home, and the other in the office. This is a 30-minute drive both ways for me, and I don't get reimbursed for gas. I work my ass off when Tessa and mom tell me they are quitting. Found out 2 more employees are quitting as well. Everyone says they will only stay if Ted is fired. Another employee writes a letter about all this shady stuff he had been doing and about how they had recorded every conversation with him, and he had said some inappropriate things. Now I don't technically know this, but mom and Tessa tell me because we are all friends. Here comes the petty part. Ted calls and asks if I am on his team, and if I had heard about my mom's decision, which he shouldn't have said anything other than mom is leaving on the 30th, and how I have to report to him every Tuesday afternoon because he has to tell our parent company what money we might have. How he has to do the same thing to his supervisor, called Big Boss, for the other office and yada yada. I want this in writing, and he has also told me to always have something in writing, so I type out a quick little email just recapping what I had been told. He loses it. He sends back this email, CC'd Big Boss, about how I wasn't in the office one day, but had put down time for it. I am salaried. I get 40 HRs per week, no matter what. And how I was in the main office one afternoon with my kid. But he didn't know how I could have picked up my son from the babysitter and made it to the office before him. And that my employees at this office, there are literally 2 people in my office, myself and a guy, depend on me just basically trying to get me in trouble and show Big Boss so that when he decides to fire me, Big Boss will say it was justified. So I email back and explain about how I wanted our verbal meeting written down because the last time he had told me something, he had gone back on me and given me a verbal warning for it, despite it being his fault. Explain about how I was driving around my town, introducing myself to customers that hadn't been able to meet me yet because of COVID, and how my babysitter met me in the town that I live in and gave me my son, so I didn't have to drive an additional 15 minutes at the end of my day and could just go home. I then stated that I thought you would want to have a record of the conversation as well, so that if I fail to do my report, you can say that I knew I needed to do so. Long story short, Dick Boss, who lies and cheats to make himself look good, tries to make me look bad and actually makes himself look like a tool to his supervisor. As an added bonus, if Big Boss doesn't actually make him report to him about what is going on in this other town, then Big Boss now know that Ted lies to his employees